Hello, welcome to Yoga with Rach. I'm Rach. Thank you very much for joining me. Happy new moon in Virgo. It is a new moon. It is in Virgo, but we're just coming up for Libra season. So we have just finished our 4 weeks of focusing on Virgo and Samana by you. So we're actually going to go into a brand new sequence, honoring the upcoming movement into Libra and going into the autumn equinox, at least here in the northern hemisphere. Obviously, those of you in the southern hemisphere, you'll be going into spring in the warmer weather, but the equinox is helping us to find that equilibrium, and we're going to be honoring that in the practice we have coming up for the next 4 weeks, unless you're doing this all in one once they're all released in the equilibrium playlist, and that includes going into the mudra we're picking. So we're honouring the fact that this new season starts with a new moon in Virgo, so we're still working with being very grounded, focusing on that kind of rooting down to rise up, that anchor to expand, but going into finding our balance. So just finding a comfortable seat, whatever that looks like for you. I'm sitting on a block because it just helps to create a bit of space in my lower back, because Libra actually rules over the lower back. So we'll be honouring that in our practice. It's also, again, honouring the equilibrium. So we will be going into a little bit of shoulders and hips over the next 4 weeks. But let's just focus on what else we're moving into, especially here in the northern hemisphere like I am. We're moving into autumn. In Ayurveda, this means we're moving into the Vata season. So it's all about air and space. So again, honoring a very grounded practice is very good, because we can get a little bit too caught up in moving too quickly, get caught up in the ideas, and we need to bring them into plan, which is what Virgo is very good at doing. So finding a comfortable seat, just checking in with how you're feeling in your body, how you're feeling in your lower back. And the mudra I have picked, especially where this year we've been working with the Vayus, is the Prana Apana mudra. So it's that honouring what we're taking in and what we're throwing away, quite literally what we're releasing. Really, really obvious here when we move into the northern hemisphere of moving into the autumn season, because especially when the trees start to really release their leaves. I know I've seen it more when I've been walking the dogs already, so it's already happening. It's that letting go of what's no longer nourishing us. Some trees obviously need to keep hold of their leaves because it keeps them going. They're these evergreens, but sometimes it's that we need to release and let go to make way for new growth when we then move into the spring season in 6 months. So the Prana Apana is honouring that, what we're taking in, what's nourishing us, what's no longer doing that, what can we release and let go. So we actually do something a little bit different with both hands, which I love because we're going into that equilibrium. So your left hand, I'm looking down to make sure I do this one right, I've got it written down in front of me. Your left hand, you're working with your thumb, you're working with the middle finger and ring fingers. So we're bringing thumb, middle and ring fingers together to touch. Index fingers and little fingers are relaxed, and we could just place the hands out onto the lap. Now on the right hand, it's still the thumb, it's still the middle finger, but it's the index finger instead. So the ring finger and little fingers are relaxed. So placing your hands into your Prana Apana mudra, what we're drawing in, taking in, what we're releasing and letting go of. Closing the eyes, bringing your awareness to the breath. And just have a few moments of what comes to mind with, maybe you're aware of what you need to release and let go of first. Maybe you're like, well, I'm wanting to take this in, but then we have to honour what we need to release and let go. For some of us, we know what we need to release and let go of, but we don't know what we're yet making space for. You're very, very welcome to stay seated, stay focusing on the mudra. But if you know you want to go a little bit more into focusing on your lower back, we're going to release that mudra, give the fingers a bit of a wiggle. You're sat on a block or a pillow or a cushion, just placing that to one side. And finding your way either into child's pose or puppy pose, whichever one feels the most comfortable for you. Both are really, really good for your back. So puppy pose, we move into tabletop. We keep the tailbone above the knees. You can bring the forearms one on top of the other to support your head, or even using the block and releasing the arms out to the side. But if you feel that a bit more in the shoulders, then have a go with child's pose. So draw the toes together, knees wider than the hips, drawing the tailbone down towards the heels. Reach the arms out in front of you. Again, you might use the block, or you might have your forehead resting down onto the mat. So finding what one feels comfortable for you. Focusing on the breath. You might be aware of the lower back moving as you're inhaling and exhaling. So this practice is quite short and sweet. If anything came up to you, if you came to mind with what you're taking in, what's nourishing you, what you're releasing and letting go, you might grab a notebook or a journal and just jot it down. Even if it didn't, but you do like to work with your journaling practice, maybe you're working with free flow, sometimes it's quite nice just to see what comes up as you bring pen to paper. And I shall see you next week. Namaste.